In this video, we're going to talk about setters and getters. So setters and getters is terminology that is kind of just the common vernacular that people use to talk about these certain types of functions or methods that you're going to have with classes. That's all it is. You don't have to have it called a setter, you don't have to have it called a getter, but basically when most people know setters and getters are set a variable, get a variable information. So it's just using it like you would any other function that you would that you're going to create, and you use it to set the variable types and get the values to return from the variable types. You're also not limited to these types of things. You don't have to have them. But it's just what's normally used in normal convention. So this has been the demo that we've been using since we started talking about classes and we did constructors and destructors. Now we're going to talk about setting up setters and getters. Now, the reason you use setters and getters is because normally you don't have this statement here. Normally that's not there. And if that's not there, when we come in here and we try to do this, you'll notice that it's not happy, right? It's saying that there's a problem and it can't handle it because like if I try to compile this, it's going to say that it's a private class, that it can't do these things. So everything in here is private and it can't run any of it. So we need our public. Generally speaking, our constructors and destructors are going to be public. You want them to be public because you want to have the item be able to, when you compile, right, you want to, when you make a class, you want to be able to have that go and call the constructor to initialize all the variables and everything. And so this is the one that we're going to have issues with. So we're going to get rid of that. You'll notice this one's going to work fine. So all of that's good. What we need to do now is make the setters and getters. So we're going to go back to our implementation file, and setters and getters are usually in the public area because what we're doing is we're kind of protecting our variables that we have in the private information. And I suggest you put private here just so that you remind yourself that this is private. You'll notice it's grayed out, and that's because the system automatically makes this private, so it's a redundant thing, but it tells my little brain that these are private, and it reminds me that these are private, right? And that only the class can actually access those. So now we're going to make a setter. And so it's just like we make a normal function. We're going to have it be, usually with a setter, it's going to be void. You're going to say set, and you can say set name. And then you're going to probably pass in the standard string, right? And so we could have one of these for each of the things that we have, each variable that we're going to need. We need our set name, set weight, and set count. So that's going to be a float and an int. Right? And so these are our setters. So we're just going to set the variables that we have for each one of those. And so again, I'm going to copy those. I'm going to take them to my implementation file. And then we're going to have those in here and we're going to paste them. And just like we did before with these up here, we need to have these same things, but we need to tell it what library to go look for again, right? So this is going to be in our items library. And instead of the prototypes, we need the curly braces because we're going to be defining what it is, right? And so we're going to do that for all three of them. So we're just going to put it in the correct library, tell it where to find it, and turn it into the definition instead of the prototype. And so this is where you just would set, right? So here we need the names of these. So we're going to say n, and I'm going to have this be the weight, and this is going to be the count. And so we're just going to say name equals n, and weight equals w, and count equals c. Now you'll notice, right, that these are purple, and that's because CLion just knows, it's like, oh, this is actually your variable, right? If I had called it anything else like names, it's going to be, oh, this doesn't exist. What is this? But since it was purple, it knew about it. It knew it was one of our items in our class because we told it what class to go look into, that it's in the items. It knows its name, it knows its weight, it knows its count, and it can easily add those to it. And so now when I want to actually set these variables, right? So I have my items here. I could do my items dot name dot set name, and then we could put it in, right? This is a cloak, and my items dot set weight, and we can say, 1.2, and my items set count, and we'll say that we have 1. Right, so you can see, like, we could set the variables. This one is done the exact same way. If we wanted to change those, we could go change it as well, right? I could say new items, and so we'll, instead of shoes, we'll call them dot set name. We'll say boots instead of shoes. So that's just going to go and change that one variable. And so now when we go, and we'll get rid of the hello world, and so now, right, it's going to, if we compile this and run it, we still have our destructors that say, right, it created a blank item, it created the shoes, but then it destroyed the boots and the cloak. So you can see that we changed it to boots. So that's the setters. To do a getter, it's the same basic thing, right? So void, this one's not going to be void, right? This one's going to be, we want to first like return a string, so get name. And standard, that's not going to have anything, right? And then standard, oh no, this one's just going to be a float. Get weight. And int get count. And so we're going to copy those same things, put them over into our implementation files, and we're just going to change the same thing that we did before, which is we put it in the correct library items, and then items. And like this one, we need to return, right? We need to return name and return weight and return count. And so now we could go back to our main, and we want to display that information, right? So we're just going to have a couple output things. We're going to say standard cout, and we're going to say get, or we'll say my items dot get name and weight, my items dot get weight, and we'll do the same thing for our new items, right? So we also had new items dot get name weight, new items dot get weight. And so, right, all we're doing is printing out the information for those new items that we got. So you can see here, right, we created them, then we printed out the cloak weight of 1.2, the boots weight of 1.5, and then we still have our destructors that destroy the items. So there you can see, you're just using the standard getters and setters. Again, you could call them whatever you want. If I wanted to, I didn't have to call them get weight. I could have just said, if I just did, count, I would have just gotten the count from it. but it works the same.